Our keynote speaker today, Don Thoren, began his career with the General Electric Company. Then for over 25 years, Don has provided speaking, consulting, and training services for a wide variety of clients. Don is the past national president of the National Speakers Association, an inductee into the Speaker Hall of Fame, and is a member of the class of 2006 Legends of the Speaking Profession. Mr. Thoren has authored the Maximizing Joint Productivity and Interpersonal Effectiveness Learning Systems. Don's newest program is titled Third Idea Thinking, designed to boost collaboration and creativity in technical organizations. Don has a very unique opening to today's keynote presentation. Please welcome Don Thoren.
But this is as good as it's going to get. Whoever's me prancing in here this morning knows what? The guy can't dance. There's no question, this guy can't dance. But it worked. It worked. Even the multitaskers who were sitting in the back doing their texting looked up, what's happening? What's happening? I even got their attention. Well, I want to have some fun this morning, but I also have a serious topic. This has to do with feedback, communication with people. And giving other people feedback is always a challenge for every single one of us. And a number of years ago, the legendary Dale Carnegie came up with a principle of giving other people negative feedback, which he classically labeled, and is still remembered as that today, the sandwich technique. Now, the concept of the sandwich technique is that if you have a critique to give to someone, consider that the meat between the buns. The first thing you do is with the first bun, you give them a nice compliment. A nice compliment, a meaningful compliment. Then you tell them what the problem is, and then before they can get too depressed, you quickly slide in another compliment. Oh, it's going to be okay. Now, the thought is if the critique is sandwiched between these two compliments, it'll go down more easily. Now, a friend of mine, a late friend of mine, studied communication all his life. He said, Don, he said, the only redeeming value I can find in that manipulative technique is when that first compliment puts this big old smile on their face, doesn't cut their lips when you kick their teeth in. Now, does that make you feel like you want to use that technique now? And the worst part of it is that if that has been used on me for a while, been used in our organization for a while, and I come and I say, hey, June, boy, are you doing a good job with such and such? What's on June's mind immediately? What have I done now? Okay. As Ed said, I grew up on a cattle ranch in Wyoming, a very sparsely populated area. The highways were very narrow little two-lane roads. And occasionally, I'd find myself in a car out on one of those roads, my uncle driving. And as you're driving those lonely Wyoming roads at night, the cars obviously have headlights, and the bright lights are on most of the time so you can see as far ahead as possible, and then you can dim those lights as you need to. So I'm remembering how, as my uncle was driving at night, he seemed to have some kind of a sixth sense that as another car was getting closer, he would dim the lights. And almost always the other car would what? Dim theirs. They would meet, they would pass in the night, turn their brights back on, and go their way. Occasionally, however, When he would dim the lights, the other car didn't quite get that message. But he would wait just a little while and then give him a very gentle, friendly little reminder, right, dim. And usually that would work. The other one would dim. Sometimes, dim, nothing, right, dim, nothing. Bright dim, bright dim, bright dim. And generally a word or two that I can't share with you today. Now there were those rare occasions when the other car never did dim. And we're right on top of each other in this narrow little 2-lane highway. And my uncle can't see. Guess what he did? Shoot on the rights! Now this makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Now not only can he not see, the other guy can't see. So this makes for kind of a precarious crossing on one of these narrow little roads. Well, that picture is in my memory. Why is that in my memory? It had to be significant to me somehow. And later in life, as I reflected back on that story, I thought, golly, my uncle was pretty smart, pretty intelligent guy, but boy, he was sure dumb when he would flash those bright lights right in the eyes of the other car. And reflecting upon that, as we do reflect on our life, and we think, well, who am I and what kind of a person am I? One of the conclusions I arrived at was that my uncle, pretty reasonable guy, allowed someone else to determine for him how he was going to act, and what he did was even more stupid than what they did. And so the thought that I carried with me when thinking back about that story is this: I simply don't want other people to decide for me how I'm going to act. I choose to be an actor, not a reactor to other people. Frequently, I've been introduced to the management team of generally a fairly large organization as the new management development consultant. Here he is, folks. And they were thrilled. Well, I developed a way to try to build rapport with them. I'd stand in front of them and I would say, well, yes, I am your new management development consultant, but I think that word consultant needs a little explanation. I'd like to give you my version of what being a consultant means. And the best way I can convey that to you is tell you the story about a family who had a tomcat. And that tomcat would go out 4 or 5 nights a week, stay out most all night. Now the problem was when he'd come back the next morning, he'd frequently be scratched up and cut up so badly that every now and then they'd have to take him to the vet to get him sewed up and fixed up. This was getting expensive. So the family decided next time we have to take him to the vet, he's getting neutered. And we won't have this problem with this tomcat anymore. Sure enough, came in scratched up, took him to the vet, got neutered, and stayed home for about 2 weeks. Suddenly one morning, where is he? And here he came in. He'd been out all night. They spent a lot of money for this neuter job. They took this cat back to the vet to complain. The vet said, okay, all right, so 2 weeks, so it was out all night last night? Oh, okay. So I think I can explain. You see, prior to the operation, your old tomcat was indeed a tomcat. However, since the operation, I think he's just going out along as a consultant. Now, you think that little story created some rapport between me and my new adversary. What was the effect of that story in the minds of those managers sitting in the room? Yes?
A little self-deprecating.
Little self-deprecating. This guy He's probably got an ego, but maybe it's not. Thank you. Thank you.